Hello, Comics Alternative fans. Before we start with the episode, we want to invite all of you to check out our Patreon campaign.
That's right. Go to www.patreon.com/comicsalternative for more details. There you'll find more information about the campaign and the cool rewards levels we have.
For as little as $1 a month, you can help us maintain good quality comics talk, and the more you contribute, the more perks you get.
These include monthly podcast episodes exclusive to Patreon supporters, as well as the chance to help us choose which books we review on the show. So be sure to visit www.patreon.com/comicsalternative and become one of our proud podcast patrons.
Yeah, and now on with the show.
This is the Comics Alternative Interviews, a conversation with Joshua Hale Fialkov and Kody Chamberlain.
Countdown for blast off. X-5, 4, 3, 2, X-1, fire.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Comics Alternative Interviews. I'm Derek.
And I'm Gene, and we're two guys with PhDs talking about comics.
And we're two guys with PhDs talking about comics, talking to some incredibly funny creators. On this episode of the interview show, we're going to be talking with Josh Fialkov and Kody Chamberlain, who are the creative minds behind Punks, the comic from Image, and that first trade came out about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. So we have a great conversation with those guys talking about Punks and other things that they've created. But before we get to that discussion, we want to let all of our listeners know that this episode of the Comics Alternative Interviews is brought to you by the wonderful folks at Discount Comic Book Service. Go to their website, dcbservice.com, for all of your comics pre-ordering needs. There you'll find all DC, Marvel, Image, and Dark Horse titles at 40% off of the cover price if you pre-order. All of the other publishers, you'll find that the discounts are 20 to 35% off cover price. And every single month, including April, they have some incredible specials. Now, Gene, sometimes those specials are at 45% off cover price. Sometimes they're at 50% off. But many times the discounts are more impressive than that.
It's bundle madness, kids. We got DC Kids bundle at 50% off. A couple of Vertigo bundles at 50% off also. A Marvel Kids bundle at 50% off. I guess it's Kids Month at DCBS. That's pretty cool. Some Archie Dark Circle bundles, which look great. Dynamite Legendary bundle, and even a Valiant bundle, all at 50% off.
That's right. They have incredible bundles every single month. And not only that, but they have other specials as well. Single issues, groups of issues, as many kinds of specials as you can imagine you will find at Discount Comic Book Service. April, May, it doesn't matter what month. They have incredible deals. So you got to go to their website and see what they are. That's dcbservice.com. Go there for all of your comics pre-ordering needs. And after you do get your comics there, please be sure to drop them a line and let them know that the two guys with PhDs sent you.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. And you know, Gene, just recently I put up on our website a link where listeners to the show can directly click on a little envelope icon, and it will pull up an email. It should pull up the email program and whatever they're using, and they can quickly and easily send a message to customer service at DCB Service saying the two guys with PhDs sent me.
Ain't technology grand?
Exactly, and we make it easy for our listeners.
It's good. We're doing it for the children.
Exactly. And you know who else is doing it for the children are Josh and Kody. Yeah, we had a really good time talking with those guys. Now, some of the language we used is probably not for the kids. So this show will have an explicit rating, if I can remember to put it in.
Okay.
But we had a great time talking about punks, where this idea came from, why it's as weird and crazy as it is, and also some of the other stuff that those guys are working on.
Yeah, and punks, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically like the old British series, The Young Ones, which most of you don't know, but it's great. Except with the four guys living in an apartment where a dog, a fist, a skull, and Abraham Lincoln.
That's right. You know, I hadn't even thought of the Young Ones reference until they brought it up in our interview. And of course,
thought of it immediately, so I was very glad they actually had that in mind, because I couldn't see how they couldn't, with a name like punks, having four guys living in a house.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It really felt like it.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and start listening to this interview.
Jump in.
We're very pleased to have on the show Josh Hale Fialkov and Kody Chamberlain, the creators, the masterminds, the maniacal forces behind Punks the Comic. Guys, thanks for coming on the Comics Alternative.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Welcome.
You know, and this may be an obvious question, but I'm going to answer it nonetheless. Where the hell did you guys come up with the idea of Punks the Comic?
Kody and I met, we've been friends for, it's over a decade now, right, Kody? It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I think that first Wizard Long Beach show was 2004.
Yeah, so we're at 11 years we've had to tolerate each other. We met, and we both, we have a lot of kind of similar interests. We both love crime fiction. We both love music. So we bonded when we first met, and we sort of kept in touch. And Kody was working independently, he was working on a project that was done with sort of zine style art, and at the same time I really wanted to do a book about this punk rock band that was part of the music scene in Pittsburgh where I grew up. And sort of simultaneously we both told each other about those projects. And at first we tried to kind of turn Kody's project into my project. But we realized really quickly that what Kody was doing was so special that it had to be something different. It couldn't just be, sort of like a memoir comic. It had to be something wholly unique and different. And when he sent me, he was just kind of doing test art, and he sent me the first cover of the very first summer special. And I saw it, and I was like, all right, well, we're doing that. I don't know what the hell that is, but we're going to figure it out, and we're going to make it happen. And so we went through, a ton of drafts back and forth just to kind of get it right. And it was born out of a weird love of oddball comedy. I grew up watching The Young Ones and Monty Python. Those were my two primary entertainment forms as a child. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to do it. And I think for me, at least, there's the challenge because people complain that it's hard to do funny comics. And so that's part of the fun is getting to use those muscles that you don't get to use a lot of, making it as funny as possible, when you don't have all the tools of comedy.
Huh. Now, okay, so I would
Which
guess...
is, by the way, the least funny answer I could give about the genesis of a funny book, so we're clear.
Yeah. Well, okay, so some of our listeners are familiar with Punks the Comic because we've talked about it quite frequently on the Comics Alternative. In fact, it was one of my top 10 of 2014.
Aw.
And
thank you.
There you go. It was, again, one of the best, and because of the comedy. And I want to talk about the comedy element and something you just said a second ago, Josh, about not as much out there. I want to address that in a moment. But for some who aren't yet enlightened, if they don't know what Punks the Comic is, how would you describe this? What is the pitch?
Kody, you do it.
I never really know what to say, and I say different things every time. So
we're horrible at selling it.
That's okay. It's like jazz.
Selling it.
Yeah, well, if I'm at a convention and I'm working the table, and someone comes by and asks about it, I say it's a comedy about four guys that share an apartment, and it's somewhere between Seinfeld and Looney Tunes. So I've used that description before.
Okay.
If they're familiar with The Young Ones, that becomes an easier sell.
Mm-hmm.
If they're familiar with the Terry Gilliam the Monty Python work. That's an easier sell too, but younger audiences for sure, they're oblivious to a lot of that stuff. So I try to give them some frame of reference that's a little closer to maybe what they're familiar with. What do you say at a convention, Josh?
Pretty much that. I say, do you ever see the young ones? And then they say no, and I go, like, do you know the cartoons on Monty Python? And then they say no. And then I'm like, oh, it's a comic about 4 guys who punch each other in the nuts a lot.
Yeah.
The thing that's both a blessing and a curse about punks is, like, people pick it up and you get it or you don't. Like, there's not a lot that either of us can say that are going to convince people to pick it up if they're not going to pick it up, you know?
That's true.
It's so weird and it's so different from there's literally nothing else like it in comics. And I'd say that mostly because of Kody. It's not because of me. So I feel like that's ego free. It just doesn't line up with anything else that's in the world right now. Which is part of why we're doing it. Like, it is by far of all my projects, like, it is the labor of love. Like, we're doing it for very little money, for very few readers, but we're doing it because we believe in it and we love it.
Which is really how the book got started anyway. I mean, at the time we both had full-time jobs, and we're looking for sort of that fun release of something that we could just experiment with and have a good time. And the original stuff we did back in 2007, I guess, was sort of born out of that. Was just, let's find something to do. The mundane stuff was kind of dragging on for me. I was working in advertising. And although sometimes those projects can be a lot of fun, the clients I had at that time were just driving me insane. And so it was a great release for me to get involved in a project like that.
In those 2 initial issues that you're referring to, that was the summer special and then the holiday or Christmas issue?
Yeah,
the Christacular thing.
That's right.
Christacular.
Summer special, winter special is what I usually say, yeah. But I think we had several different names for the same book.
Yeah, we're terrible about that. Didn't we have an issue that doesn't have a price on it?
Probably, yeah.
Oops. Oh, nuts. There's a very good attention to detail. We just sometimes miss the really big, important details. No, and that's, and again, like, that's one of the things, like, it really is just the 2 of us. Like, there's our wives proofread it for us. And that's about as much input as we've ever had on it. So it's literally just like Kody and I jamming. And what I think part of what makes it work is Kody is a Cajun from the back country in Louisiana. I'm pretty sure he does not have plumbing. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And I am an urbanite.
No, we don't have plumbing, but we do have water.
Yeah. Well, look.
There's a California joke.
Touche, Kody. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I grew up in the city, so like our cultural references are really different from each other. And we very kind of purposefully don't talk while the book is being made. So if Kody doesn't understand something or doesn't understand a reference, he sort of like does it literally or will do his own version of whatever that reference is. Because I don't think, like, you don't even look up, you don't even, like, Google stuff, right, Kody? Like, you just do it.
Sometimes I do, but, Josh, I could tell just by hanging out with him that he grew up with an extensive pop culture background. And I really didn't. I did grow up in South Louisiana. We were fishing and hunting and camping and playing in the mud, and that was sort of my childhood.
I'm allergic to outside.
He's allergic to everything. That's right.
He's allergic to mud.
Yeah, I really am.
I was wondering if you guys could talk a little bit. I'm coming at this as kind of a novice. Unfortunately, I never saw a single issue of Punks before I got this. Before I got the trade, it looks like things are like out of order. You talked about like the summer special came first, whatever. I can't figure out like where one issue starts and another one picks up. Can you talk about like your publication history a little bit?
Yeah, so we did 2 like oversized. They were digest sized, so they were undersized but oversized in terms of length. So they were small but long specials that we did at a place called Digital Webbing. Which is actually there's a website currently which is actually where you go if you want to meet artists or letterers or colorists or whatever. And they had a small publishing line way back when. So they published the first two, and it was essentially self-publishing. Like they took the files and sent it to a printer. Like that was what they did. And we did those 2 books, and we sold them through them, and they only sold 1,800 copies each. And the two of us sort of just kept slogging it. So every show I go to, I always have a stack of them with me. The book sort of perpetually sells, and people go crazy for it. Like the people who like it are fucking insane for it, And I think it was something that Eric Stevenson at Image had been a really big fan of it the first time. And he wasn't the publisher. Eric Larson was the publisher, and Eric Larson, he actually said it to my face at a convention. I showed it to him, and he looks at it and he's like, "I don't know, this could be good, but I have no fucking idea what this thing even is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Like, you really want me to publish this, really?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So Eric Stevenson was always a big fan of it, and I think the way I heard it was he was having lunch with Rob Guillory, the artist on Chew, who happens to be a good friend of Kody and I. And Rob said, "You should get Josh and Kody to do more punks." And then we did more punks. That is the story. So we did, there's been 5 regular issues of the series at Image. Right now we are currently working on a fundraiser for the CBLDF, which is the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund.
And that's coming out soon, right?
I don't know, Kody. Is it?
Yeah, pretty soon. I had to wait for Josh to finish his important TV work before I got script.
Yeah, listen.
But I'm chugging along now, so we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, the gimmick. It actually took forever to write because the gimmick is to help raise money for the CBLDF. The gimmick of the book is we break every single rule of the comics code from the 50s. So it's annotated
in one issue.
In one issue.
Yeah.
So it was a huge amount of work. I still haven't done. There's actually rules for advertising in comic books as well as a part of that. So I have to write an entire page of ads that break that and then make Kody lay it out. I'm really not looking. That's the one part. Like I'm especially not looking forward to it.
I love the ad breaks and like the little kind of cutaway stuff that you do in the book. It's hilarious.
And most of that's Kody. Like that's not me. He really like. I give all credit to Kody for the book. Like I don't know how he takes the moronic stuff I write and makes it genius, but he does.
Well, the tricky part of doing the collaboration is Josh will often call for something, and if I were drawing the book, I would just pick up a pencil and draw it. But Punks is done entirely with actual photos. So if it's something I can't easily photograph or have access to, I have to improvise. So a lot of the strangeness in the style of what happens in the panels is really just me working with whatever I happen to have on hand. And so that limitation, to me, really inspires a lot of the visual aesthetic of the book, simply because I have to sort of think on my feet and improvise as I push through the pages.
Now, those ads or the supplemental materials, I think that's what Gene was referring to. Things like the DIY censorship kit, and the Punks the game, and then there's my favorite, Punks the cross stitch pattern. Has anyone made that?
Yes, they have.
They have.
My wife is actually working on it right now, and it looks pretty damn good. So she's about 40% through. It's a lot of stitching on that one.
Wow. Well, if you remember, once she finishes this, take a picture of it, and we will post it on the website as a follow-up.
I will, absolutely. There are people that have told me that they're working on it. They haven't sent me pictures of it. So I may actually have to get on Twitter and put out a call for those people.
Aren't you glad that you did it properly? Because how pissed would those people be when they finished and it was not what they said it was?
That's right. And also the first one was a complete joke, the first activity. So we may have set it up to where people are terrified to even attempt the cross-stitch pattern.
That's true.
Has anyone, as far as you know, attempted to play the card game, which was number one?
We did a full size version of it that we do only at show. We sell only at shows. And I have played it. That is one of the fun things when people come to my table. I will usually play Nut Puncher with them. And it works. It actually is a functional. I'm a tabletop nerd, and it's actually like a functional, super simple card game. So it works. It's a real game. It works.
Huh. Well, okay, you mentioned being at shows. When's the next time you guys are going to be at a show together?
Oh, God, we haven't been at a show together in a long time, huh?
Yeah, I haven't done many shows in the last. I had a kid about 3.5 years ago, and he's really cool, and I like to hang out with him. So,
well, that's good because now you're on record. Saying
that's right.
Cool.
I went from doing I was doing 10 or 12 shows a year. Now I'm maybe doing 2, and they're usually local. I am trying to get to San Diego this year. I did register and stuff like that, so I'll probably be at San Diego.
And I have been doing like 20 shows a year, and so I am actually taking 2015 mostly off. Oh. So I just did Emerald City, and I was at Long Beach, and I'll probably do Long Beach Comic-Con in the fall, just because it's local and I'm friends with the organizers. But as of right now, I'm actually the thing that people don't say is that the convention is like, even if you make a ton of money at the show, it is the biggest resource suck. Because number one, like getting ready for it takes a couple days. Decompressing from it takes a couple days. I have no immune system, so I get sick every time. Like when I went to New York last year, I had the flu for I think 12 weeks afterwards. And barely made it onto the show floor because I was I got sick like the second day I was there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was. Let me tell you, my wife was thrilled when I was like, "Oh, don't worry, it's only costing us thousands of dollars."
Yeah, for me, it's really about the deadlines to, just falling behind schedule and stuff is brutal, and I don't like it. So, I do tend to kind of pass on shows, even some of the all expense paid shows that you get offered. It falls at a bad time, or there's, a book is due a couple weeks before, after, during the show. Logistically, they just become harder to do over time. At least I found that way.
Yeah, no, and it's like I write. I have 6 creator-owned series, 1 work-for-hire series. I'm working on a TV show, and I've been working on a cartoon. So like, I work 18 plus hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't like, and going away for 3 days, like it's nice in that it is technically a vacation, but it is like the least restful way to have a vacation,
That's true.
And the work is not actually done. Like the work is still sitting there waiting to be completed,
So neither of you are going to be at Heroes Con in a couple of months.
I'm not.
No, I was invited to that one, and I love it, but that's my kid's birthday party. So, it's the same date every year pretty much. So that show is always tough to do.
Wow. So I won't be able to play Nut Puncher with either of you.
No.
I have yet to actually play it.
I'm a jerk. I have because I got everything printed, so I have them all. There's actually hilariously that Kody hasn't seen it. There is a box with like 400 of them just sitting right next to me right now. I instead of the water that I could be using to bath, I instead can use copies of Punk's Nut Puncher.
I heard that it's really fun. So.
Okay, well, Josh, we need to talk after the recording because we're probably gonna get a table there, and we're gonna be sitting around, and that would be something to do. So it would be a way for us to introduce Punks.
Well, you guys can email me your address, and I will ship you instead of Kody. Kody will still get nothing. So
yes, I don't
get a single copy.
Okay, you guys.
If they show up here, I will refuse delivery.
That's good. Just pray for the best.
I want to get back to something you were pointing out earlier, Josh, and that is the presence, or maybe the lack thereof, of comedy in comics. Whether it may be hard or maybe just people aren't doing enough of it. I know up until about a year or two ago, I used to call the triumvirate of humor in comics Evan Dorkin, Michael Kupperman, and Tony Millionaire, because their stuff is just hilarious. I mean, to me, it doesn't get any, up until about a year or so ago, I thought it didn't get any weirder than Milk and Cheese. I mean, that was right up my alley. And then it seemed like there was, all of a sudden, about a year and a half ago, or a year ago, several comics, and Punk's the Comic being one, that seemed to come out of nowhere, and it was just this strange offbeat sense of humor. So, I mean, there's the kind of work that you guys do on Punks, and then there is Ryan Brown's God Hates Astronauts, and then along with that is Derek Van Giesen's Eel Mansions. And in fact, all three of those titles, Punks, God Hates Astronauts, and Eel Mansions, were ones that either I or my regular colleague Andy Kunka brought up as some of the best of 2014. And it's just, wow, this great comedy all of a sudden, when it's like there was a big dry spell. I mean, do you feel that there's just not as much creativity in outright guffawing comedy in comics?
No, you know what it is it's really hard to sell. It's really hard to sell to people. That's really what it is. Like with like people who read comics have sort of an expectation of what a comic book is. Even people who understand that there's a breadth to the industry and understand that the medium can do kind of anything. And so I think the reason why you don't see a lot of comedy is like it's a strike against you from a sales standpoint. What happened and what changed a year and a half ago or a couple years, over the past couple years, is the kind of growth of Image. So because now there is this actual marketplace for independent comics, creator-owned comimes, where you make money. Like, we're not making a lot of money, but we've made money on every issue. Because of that, it gives you the freedom to do weird stuff. So before, a book like God Hates Astronauts, which he self-published, and then he did a Kickstarter for the first collection. That book wouldn't have had a place in the direct market until suddenly Saga and Walking Dead, and Fatale and all those books that are sort of at the top line of Image open those doors again. So I think that's sort of a very practical reason why I think comics are hard to do is that they're participatory. So the thing about comics is like every person experiences comics differently because they read them differently. So they fill in the missing information between the panels, they fill in themselves, the voices, how the characters move, that's all imagination based. So much of what comedy is, the example is like you can watch Chevy Chase fall down and it's hysterical. You can watch my mom fall down and it's heartbreaking. And it's the same action, but the thing that makes it different is that my mom is a frail 7-year-old lady and Chevy Chase was a comedic genius. So like his physicality is what brought the comedy to the situation. So I think you're missing that. And then the other big thing is the other key to humor is timing. Is being able to deliver a joke by controlling the pacing. And that's something that you just kind of can't. You can do it in comics. It's actually, Kody and I both do horror books, and it's one of the hard things about horror too, because so much of what makes horror effective is the jump scare, is the when it's a cat, everyone when you jump. And so it kind of comes down to not just writing a funny comic, but writing a funny comic that is almost audience proof, so that every member of the audience reads it in as close to the way you intend it to be read as possible. And that's super, super hard to do.
That's true. One thing about Punks is that so much of the comedy, Josh writes these insane lines, and so much of comedy, I think, is also body language and positioning and, all the little subtle things that great comedians do well. You watch any great comedian, you watch The Jerk, and the little things he does with body language and expression and movement are just absolutely hysterical. And that stuff is tricky to do in comics. And, so much of the humor in comics, I think, comes from that. And so one of the things I try to do with Punks, one thing that makes it extra challenging is I'm, for the most part, using the same faces over and over and over. So I have to rely almost exclusively on body language to try to deliver on the great jokes. I mean, I think my primary job is to not kill the funny stuff that he's written. And so I kind of dance around, is this even working? Is this even working? And I move stuff around and I reposition figures a lot, just really trying to not kill the joke. Because I think, if you look at bad art on any comic, it could really ruin it, and comedy more so, I think.
One of the things that I like about the humor in this book is that it's not just verbal humor. There's so much. It's not just verbal. It's not even just like the acting, but like you said, that for like cutout characters, the kind of body acting in this book is great. But there's also amazing like a layout and pacing and things like that. The pacing and the timing really sells a lot of these jokes in a way. You talked about the books of comedy's timing.
Thank you.
Like from page turns or just the crazy transitions from one style to another, or like you throw a color in that you're not expecting, and that can be funny sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny. Like it's not. We don't talk about the book a lot because it's so like. I don't think either of us know what happens or who does what that makes it so good. You know, like it's a weird thing where like I get the pages back and they're so much better than what I thought. You know, like Kody really does. And then I think like the combination of each of us just trying to impress the other one has really gone a long way. Like I think it really makes a big difference. Like, and the thing, you know, I talk about it kind of a lot, but like every one of my creator-owned books is with a person who is one of my best friends. I mean, it's you know, and it's a thing where like, and the relationship that we have, the relationship that I have with my collaborators is like seen in the book. You know, like you can actually feel what that relationship is like. And Kody and I have a very like, we've known each other for a long time. We have, we're fundamentally different people. And even though we believe opposite things, like we love each other and we will always get along. Like there will not be a fight because we're both sort of the same and that we're just straight up, like, you know what you get from us and that's it. And I think that's, again, like that's part of the book is it's that relationship. It's that relationship coming through.
Yeah, and you know, I want to piggyback on something that Gene brought up, and that is the physical humor that comes out through your collaboration. I especially noticed this, and in fact, we even commented on this when we reviewed issue number 1 back in the fall with the character of Lincoln, because you could go from panel to panel, and his head will change from clean-shaven to full beard to less full beard. The fact that he wears a T-shirt many times with the number 5. And then I just opened up in the story Depression. We see, well, you know, all the characters there lying in their beds, kind of ho-hum and you know, really lethargic. And in Lincoln's bedroom, he has pictures of John Wilkes Booth. So it's, you know, and that's something, and it could have been written into the script for all I know.
It was not. That's Kody. That's all Kody.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make fun of Abe here. I'm not sure if Abe knows who the guy is. You know, I'm not sure if they ever actually met until the incident occurred. So,
well, yeah, it also reminds me, and my co-host Andy always accuses me of having to bring Woody Allen into almost every episode. If you remember in Crimes and Misdemeanors, the character Lester has this theory of comedy. He says it's tragedy plus time. And he said, he uses the example of Abraham Lincoln's assassination. He said, at the time, you know, we couldn't laugh about it. It wasn't funny. It was horrific. It was a tragedy. But now, after over a century, it can be funny. We can make jokes about it.
Sure.
So there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of little stuff in Punks that if you go through the issues very slowly and you kind of soak it in, there's stuff I hide in the backgrounds. There's repeating things that occur.
There's stuff like, because when we did the first chunk of the original of the summer special, there's a 2-page spread where like they're writing on a chalkboard.
Uh-huh.
And and again, this book is like 7 years old, and I've looked at it a lot, and it says like doesn't it say Josh is a tool in big letters?
I think it says Josh sucks.
There you go. Like it's just like, and you know, and it's something that even I didn't.
Yeah, Josh sucks. There it is.
See, like, and even I didn't notice it. Like, it's just Kody does so much crazy detail work. Like if you look at the cover of the trade, like he added all that garbage. So he took and he put all that garbage, and that garbage is stuff. You know, it's crazy.
Actually, my photocopier's in there. The car that appears on the one of the cover variants. I kind of grabbed all these bits and pieces and shoved them into the garbage there. But there's a lot of weird stuff that no one's commented on, or if they didn't even notice it. But on the title page to book 4, it's called Begin. Josh wrote that the house was on fire. So I actually used a car with flames on it and just left the pieces of the car in there, so you can sort of see the tire in the window of the car and the flames. So I do stuff like that, and sometimes it's really just for me to keep myself interested and laughing as I work through the pages.
Well, Kody, where do you get the images of the bodies? I mean, Skull, Lincoln, Bulldog, that's one thing. But, all their bodies, do you pose or do you have people pose?
It's a mix. I have, on occasion, I have interns or just friends are stopping by the studio and I'll put them to work if I'm working on some pages. Sometimes it'll be me. It's rarely ever pulled from a magazine or anything like that because I could probably find a shot to use with that stuff, but the body language just isn't right, and it would take a lot of editing to get it where I need it. So it's usually me up there doing it, and some of them are just absolutely too much fun to not do myself. The playing card game that Josh created, there's actually the poetry slam. Trying to get that shot just right of Dog doing the poetry slam with the mic was just, I was laughing for 20 minutes trying to get that photo done. It's just hysterical.
Now, I know you mentioned having other artists that, do the variant covers, which I think are great. You mentioned Guillory. He did, I think, the issue number 1, he did the variant cover. What about this interview with Rick Remender? Now, is this anything? Did Remender participate in this, or did this just come up out of your head?
Yeah. No, that's a real interview with him. We
Really?
really did interview him. Yeah. No, that was. The interview was 8 years ago. But yeah, no, we've been friends with Rick, and Rick was a big supporter of the book the first time around. He really liked it.
And you made him a fish.
And we made him a fish, and he was okay with it.
We were kind of doing, at the time, the original Punks issues were sort of really more of a zine. Josh had a few cool little pieces in there. We had in the other issue, we did a second interview, but I had done an Art Chantry interview with a designer that I really respected and liked, Art Chantry, and I had done the layout for that. And the plan was actually to do the Rick Remender interview with the same look. But when we got our press date, we had about, 10 or 12 more days before the book was actually due when we were done. So I actually went back to that original interview and did it in the comic style. But it was, I guess the intention was originally to do it the way we had done the Art Chantry interview in the first book, where it was just an interview with some images inserted. So that was really just, we had a little bit of extra time, and we still do that today. I mean, we'll have, a brief moment before an issue is due, and we'll throw in some bonus stuff or work up some weird activity. It's really part of the fun for us.
Can we expect any more interviews with other creators?
I don't know. Part of the thing is it's really time consuming. It's weirdly time consuming because you have to, I want the interviews to be in character. So I have to ask questions that are interesting to Dog. And then the person you're doing the interview with has to get the joke, and has to be funny enough to kind of go along with it. And so I think that's because we had talked when we were relaunching the book, we had talked about doing more of the zine type stuff, but it's sort of so much more time consuming because on top of me having to do the interviews and find the people and line it up, they have to sign off on it and make sure they're comfortable with it, that they're not offended or, anything like that. And so it's something that I think we did it back then because we didn't know any better. We didn't know that you didn't have to do that. So yeah, I don't know. We have the CBLDF special, and then we're gonna do a special, which is the fall. We probably need to get that solicitation in sometime soon.
Yeah, yes.
We're gonna do one in the fall, and then we're gonna kind of see how the book does, and we're gonna give it some time because we both are super overloaded with projects right now. And again, that's sort of the nice thing about Punks is that we can do it when we want to do it. And the great thing about Image is you do what you want. So when if we want to take a break, we can take a break. If we want to bring it back, we can bring it back.
But also, we haven't yet reprinted any of the winter special, and there is an amazing Brian Reed interview Josh did.
That's true.
It's actually Brian Reed as a sock puppet instead of a goldfish.
And in the intervening years, Brian Reed has gone from being the writer of the Ultimate Spider-Man video game and the old Ms. Marvel series. He's now the head creative on Halo, on the Halo franchise. So like it's completely much like the Rick Remender interview, where Rick Remender is now a superstar, and back then he wasn't. The Brian Reed one will also be completely useless as an informational source.
Wow.
But it makes you look prescient.
That's true. I know who's going to be a big hit.
Josh, perhaps we should have Dog interview us in the next.
No, maybe
that could launch us into stardom.
And then we will just wait 7 years,
That's
and
right.
life will be good.
Well, you mentioned that, and I wanted to ask you about that particular story in the trade, and this was, what was it, issue 3 or 4, where you guys became characters in the story.
That's 4, I think.
That's Begin.
Right?
Yes, it's Begin. Yeah, it starts off with what looks like unconscious nuns, and then
That's right, yeah.
Fist kissing them, and then it ends when. I mean, this is very self-conscious narrative. You have to turn the book horizontally, or you have to turn it the other way in order to start reading the horizontal layout of the panels. And then you guys become characters who are very much aware that things have gotten out of hand, and the book needs to be righted.
Yeah, that's like part of that was the thing of when you're doing these, when you do the part of the joke of the book is that it has this kind of formula, that it has like a sitcom formula, but the whole second act of the sitcom is just insanity. And so the thing I kept thinking about was that like we're eventually gonna run out of endings, because we'll have done all of the endings that you can possibly do. We've done all the shots where they freeze frame and laugh, and so I think that grew out of that. And again, like as the book was going, like we really, like I'm much more precious with my other books, and I in a good way and in a bad way. Like with Punks and working with Kody, like I have the ability to just kind of freestyle and try new stuff that I haven't done before.
And I think part of the going sideways is also I had done the McFarlane homage on the cover for that one. So I'd always saw that Spider-Man pose and thought it looked like he was pinching a loaf. He's in that pose of like if you're camping and you got to go, that's pretty much how you stand, right? And so I decided to put Dog's bowl right where that piece would drop. And so the guys in the 90s around that time that cover was coming out. They were doing this sort of sideways stuff with books too. So sometimes it's sort of just a brief little spark of inspiration, I think, that Josh and I will pick up on and kind of run with it in the story. I did the sort of golden ratio there on the swirl right before the book goes sideways to give it some, I guess some vertigo. So I love the experimentation nature of the book. I mean, that's what makes it really fun for me.
And I think I think it's certainly made me a better writer working on it. And I think, I see, one of the things that I love about Kody's writing, because Kody is also a brilliant cartoonist across doing both writing and art. One of the things that Kody does really well that I've sort of, tried to adopt more of is he really, he tells stories in a way where he expects the audience to keep up. So he's never sort of consumed with making sure they're keeping up. Like he tells his story and has enough faith in his storytelling to know that people are doing it without having to be like, okay, so here's what just happened in case you're confused. And I think getting to do that in Punks and seeing like, oh, I can tell a story that is as clear as it needs to be. Like even with sort of this crude, odd art, we can still convey all of the stuff that we're trying to convey, and it works. And that's something that like I've taken into my other work. That when I'm working on a bunker script or The Life After, and I'm thinking like, well, I don't know if this is clear or not. Like I have a lot more faith now of like, no, people will get it. And if they don't get it, then we have time later to make sure they get it. Like when it's important, they'll get it. Cause that's one of the things with Sweets, which is Kody's other Image book. When you read it, like at no point does he say, okay, so here's what, there's never that like final act of Poirot or Miss Marple explaining what has just happened. Which is like every mystery, like literally every mystery has that moment. And that book is almost this like Sweets is almost sort of like a nihilistic crime story. Where like, cause the answer is like, no, terrible things happen. Like this happened because terrible things happen. And it really like, it's really powerful. And it's something I think about that book constantly. So it's, and and again, like I think some of that came from Punks. It's from seeing how, for Kody at least, like doing a book that's designed beautifully that allows the story to almost like inhabit the reader rather than tell itself to the reader, can be so powerful.
I'm gonna have to go back and read Sweet and make it sound really interesting.
Cody's like, oh shit, I just cut those 5 pages. I just screwed up.
Now, Kody, was that your first foray with Image?
Yeah, pretty much. I had done a book with one of the Image imprints that got canceled because our sales were just pathetic. But Sweets was my first fully creator-owned, and although I did write some of the earlier stuff I was doing at Digital Webbing, as far as books that were done on a larger scale, Sweets was the first book I did, story and art. And really it was just an experiment for me. It was, I wanted to kind of challenge myself. It was I call it the comic book Iron Man. Could I do all these different jobs at a professional level and make the book work? So it was certainly a creative challenge. I'm super thrilled Image decided to publish it. I'm super proud of it. There's a lot of stuff, like everything, I guess, every creator, there's a lot of stuff I'd change about it that I thought might work, but I think maybe didn't work, or, you do enough conventions and people have the same questions that you realize, okay, maybe this point wasn't as clear as I thought it was in my head. So, but yeah, it's we're looking at maybe doing a reprint soon. I have a new crime book I'm working on right now. I can't talk too much about it, but if and when this book's ready to go, I hope I can get a reprint of Sweets up soon.
Will this be through Image, or is that something you can't say now?
No, it's not that I can't say. I just haven't even pitched it.
Oh, okay.
Image hasn't even seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they could very well say no, or some other offer may come along. But right now, there's really no plans for it.
Well, Josh, you had mentioned that with Punks, you're not as precious as you are with some of your other titles. But I know that a couple you have going on right now, The Life After, which we haven't reviewed on the podcast, but we've mentioned on the podcast, and then The Bunker, which we actually did review on the podcast when it was in digital form.
Right.
And those are still going. And, I'm especially curious about The Bunker because we reviewed that. It was January of 2014. We did a special digital comics episode, and so we included the first several issues of The Bunker. And then it was soon after that they began to release it. It's through Oni, right?
Right.
In hard copy issues, and now it correct me if I'm wrong, but it is only hard copy now.
No, I mean you can still get it digitally. We essentially. What happened was that book was way more successful than either of us thought it was going to be. We had pitched, Joe and I had pitched The Bunker to a major indie comic, or not major creator-owned comics imprint, and the response was like, "We love this. We don't think there's an audience for it." And I said, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Well, it's just so smart." And I am not smart. Like I think I am probably of average intelligence. So I like the idea that I am so much smarter than everybody else in the world who would be reading this book was mysterious and confusing to me. And outrageous, because it's just not true. Like the people who, like, by nature of the fact that they read books, comic book fans are already like well ahead of the pack. you know? So we published it digitally without pitching it anywhere else. Like, we literally talked to nobody except for each other and Comixology. And we did it digitally ourselves as really like a combination of like a proof of concept, right? Like, we believe in this and we're going to show people why they should believe in it. And then number two is a fuck you. Like, we wanted to be able to say, like, look, we did this. We did this without any help at all. And, you know, within 24 hours of launching, launching the digital comic on Comixology Submit, number one, it was in the top 10 of all of Comixology. I had actually, the same week, I was writing the big Galactus event for Marvel, and I think Bunker number one was like number 6, and the Galactus event was number 7 on their top 10. You know, like, it's crazy. Like, it makes no sense. So number one, that. Then number two, we had a 4-way bidding war for the TV rights. And I had a stack of publishers all waiting who wanted to publish it. And so as the book went, like, what we realized is, like, we're doing pretty well, but the digital comics market, it's grown a bit since then, but it's still really it's less than a quarter of the entire comics market. So even if the book is selling, you know, at its maximum, it technically could be selling 4 times as much. And so, you know, it came down to, number one, Oni was really passionate about the book. Like, Joe Nosmak, who runs Oni, he emailed me within like an hour of the file going up for download to say, I want to publish this.
Wow.
And, you know, they were able to essentially give us an advance so that Joe could afford to work on the book exclusively, instead of what he was doing, which was like trying to get it done, as well as 500 other things. And it let us grow the audience. So it's one of those things where it's been an amazing gift, but it's more than anything, like, the great part about it is the lesson. And the lesson is, when you believe in something, don't let anybody tell you no. Like, don't let anybody tell you it's not going to work, because if you believe in it and you fight hard enough for it, like, you can make it work.
Wow, it's like Field of Dreams. If you build
right?
it, they will come in. And I don't like that movie because of its sentimentality, but in this case, it works.
The lesson is also that comics is so much like dating. It's ridiculous. It's like once everyone hears that everyone else likes the book, now they like the book.
Yeah.
You know, it sort of catches fire with people because they hear other people like it. There's so much of that stuff in comics that sort of parallels the dating scene. It's incredible. But Josh had just come off of Echoes at Top Cow before the Bunker. I guess maybe there's a year or two difference in there. But I thought the Bunker was like a very logical, clever follow up to that. I mean, I know that was a Top Cow thing, right?
Yeah.
That was it. But it's as far as whether or not people are ready for smart books. I mean, if Echoes wasn't proof of concept that Josh could do smart books and sell them, I don't know what is.
But that's sort of the thing about comics, is like, you're constantly in the state of having to prove your worth. It's a weird thing. Like, you never really, like, at least I haven't. I've been, like, this is my 14th year. Like, I've written Batman and Superman and Spider-Man. And, you know, like, I still feel like I have to introduce myself when I'm working on stuff. Like, it's, you know, when iVampire at DC got announced, I remember the, like, chorus of, who? And I was like, I was nominated for Eisner. Like, I've been here. I have a, like, bunch of books that sold great, but nobody knows, you know. And I think even with doing these 3 books, like with Bunker Punks and Life After, like, it's always a struggle, because people will read one of them and love them, and then it's this thing of like, well, you know, if you love that, I do these 2 other things that you might also love.
And didn't like a hardcore Punks fan come up to you and he saw you in the Punk shirt and he refused to believe that you actually wrote the book and co-created?
He walked up and he was like, I'm signing his books for him, and he goes, man, not only do you write great books, but you have really great taste in comics. And I was like, that's a weird thing to say. He's like, no, your shirt. And I'm like, oh, well, you know, I write that book, right? And he goes, you know what? I don't think I want you to sign the rest of my books. And I said, well, why not? He's like, because I don't think it's cool for you to take credit for Kody's work like that. And I was
Really?
like, no.
What?
Yeah, and I was like, no, I write the book. And he's like, I'm pretty sure Kody writes the book. I'm like, no, my name's on the cover too. Yeah, well, you know what? Whatever you say. And I literally had to walk over to another booth to find a copy of the book to show it to him because he would not believe it. He was so convinced that it was a Kody book and not a me book, And it is, to be honest, it is Cody's book. It's much more Cody's book than my book, just because, when I look at it, I see elements of myself, but I see so much of Kody, in every page of that book. So it's your fault, Kody. It's all your fault. Whatever's wrong.
When we hang out and we start to crack wise, Punks is your sense of humor, man. That's you. I got no jokes. What do I got? I got nothing. All I got is blades, man.
You got alligator hunting. Right. You're so good at it.
That's right.
that's this book. This book feels to me like a gumbo, in that it has shrimp and other things in it that I don't eat. It's really. I think the analogy just fell apart. I got nothing.
Well, one thing I got out of that con story that you told is the fact that apparently there's a Punks T-shirt. Is there a Punks T-shirt?
There was.
And where can I get one?
Yeah.
I think they're all gone. Are they all gone?
Damn.
I think I have 3 in the studio here in the box underneath some other shirts.
I lost a bunch of weight, so mine don't fit me anymore. Mine are all gigantic.
We talk about doing them again, but it's a logistical nightmare, and traveling to shows is absolutely terrible because they're so bulky. I know there are a few services that sort of let you set up your files there, and they run the printing and the distribution and stuff like that. We've never really just looked into it.
But now we know that we can sell at least one of them. Maybe we will.
That's right.
Unfortunately, it's going to be $500. I'm sorry.
There you go.
The friend discount.
Josh, you said that you see the book as kind of a gumbo. I was wondering when because you write the scripts and Kody does the art. When you get the art back, do you ever think that I could really tweak something over here because of that you see in the page?
I almost always completely rewrite it. So when I get it back, I will go through. I mean, I do on all my work, and it's weird because I know people who don't do that. But every book I get, I do at least a dialogue polish. Because look, the goal for comics is to have as few words as possible, right? You want to be able to tell your story with art. That's the whole point of the medium, is you're telling stories with art. So no matter what, I always do it on Punks, especially though, because there's just better. Kody will put better jokes in than what I wrote, or there will be opportunities to make something funnier, or or even just to clarify stuff. So I always do a pretty thorough rewriting, specifically on Punks.
Yeah, one of the good examples of that, I think, is on the page, the issue 4, where we have our cameos on the sideways panels. I had snuck in, some bunker references and Life After references in the background.
Oh yeah.
Josh is at that theater in Los Angeles, standing in front of it and stuff like that. And the rewrite he did on that is just fantastic. He comes across as this crazy, maniacal, egotistical psycho.
Which I am, so it's pretty easy for me.
And he is. But the original stuff in the first round of the script wasn't that at all. So that last page there really changed tone once you saw those little references in there.
Oh, and I got to say earlier, I think Josh said he was running off a list, and he said Bunker and then Punks. I think Bunker Punks is a great title. I want to see that crossover.
We can make it a spin-off. We'll see.
The Bunker Punks.
Well, you mentioned Chew a little earlier. They've done a couple of crossovers, so why can't you do a crossover with your own title?
It's true.
Maybe we should do a Chew crossover. I share a studio with Rob Guillory, so I have the in. I have some pretty good blackmail on him to get some stuff done. So,
I would so be there, man. Now, on the topic of future issues, you had said that so this trade is out now. This first collection, pulling together the first 5 issues, and then that's the original summer special, and so that came out a couple of weeks ago. And then soon we're going to get the comic book Legal Defense Fun issue. And you say that there's going to be another, what is it, like a winter or fall special issue?
I think it's going to be a fall special. The gimmick we came up with is we're going to do 2 covers. And we're going to each have our kid, because my kid is going to be 5 and Cody's kid is going to be 4, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
And so, and both of them are artists. They both draw constantly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have our kids draw the covers, and we're going to let people vote with their dollars. So whichever cover gets more sales, that kid is allowed to go to art school.
That's right.
And the other kid has to become an accountant. Whether they want to be an accountant, or even if they want to be a doctor, they just have to become an accountant.
That's not
it's
cool
true.
at all. I love that.
We're not telling them that part. We're just gonna say, hey, draw this thing. You better do really fucking well. Although, to be honest, I think being an accountant might be the better life. I could be wrong, because you could always do art for fun.
Yeah.
But you can't do accountancy for fun. It's not like
Of course you could.
it could be like a fun
It'd be
CPA.
very lonely.
Okay, well, so
true.
if you do that, but you can't do what the publishers normally do with covers, you can't have cover A and cover B, right? Because people would normally gravitate toward A. So what are you going to call them?
I think it'll just be by last name. It'll be because I don't say my daughter's name in public. And did you say yours? Say your kid's name?
No, we could do boy girl maybe.
No, that's the thing is maybe that even gets us more sales. Maybe that turns the gimmick into an actual sales technique because people are so big on making sure to prevent gender bias that everyone will order the girl copy to show how proactive they're being, and then we win. I like this. The joke about the book that we always talk about is that we think it's like a licensing bonanza. That we made a book called Punks that we're like, what else can we sell it as? What are other things we can make to make money from Punks?
Punk's the air freshener.
Oh, if only. Oh, the dreams.
There's one of the background things I hid in the Sean Connery issue is there's a Lone Pine air freshener, sort of a Back to the Future reference.
Yeah.
And with the fear that no one would get it, I put a flux capacitor there in the submarine. So
just to make sure.
we could market those Lone Pine air fresheners and get sued out of the wazoo.
So you don't currently have any plans for the next narrative arc?
I don't know. We're gonna see what happens. Like again, it's something that we do the book. We do the book because we love doing it, and so. But at the same time, like we have to do our jobs. So I think like we're gonna do these two specials, and then we're gonna see how 2016 looks. And a lot of it, again, the thing about Punks is it doesn't date. Like it lasts. And so what's been cool is again, like we're still, when people read those first two issues from 7 years ago, like they feel just as fresh and just as cool as they did back then. Because we try not to put. Like the Sean Connery reference, like that's a dated reference, but it's not dated to when the comic was made.
Sean is timeless.
It's true. It's true. And
you even have a Zardoz reference in there.
Know.
Yes.
I love Zardoz. It's great. It's so great. Can I spoil because everyone what the payoff to Zardoz is?
In the movie or the comic?
In the movie.
Do we know or should we let listeners know?
Does everyone know? I'm going to spoil it. See, what it is the reason why it's called Zardoz is the book that they use as their holy book is a old copy of The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And the letters have been rubbed off. Bam! Bam! The movie makes no sense.
Yeah. Oh, one year, because I used to teach film, and I was teaching a course in science fiction, and I was using film along with, novels and short stories. And for some weird reason, I just decided one semester to use Zardoz. And it was a strange experience in the classroom after the movie ended.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
It was a combination of the sound of crickets and the image of a tumbleweed and Salvador Dali all rolled into one.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's not a bad. It's actually not a terrible. Like the costume is terrible. Like his outfit is unbearably bad. But it's actually like a decent. It's like a decent, smart. It's John Borman, right? Like it's I think it's John Borman's follow up to what's it called? To Deliverance, isn't it? Let me see. I'm looking. I'm IMDb'ing it because I don't want to be wrong.
See, that is something I would have asked Josh.
It's before Excalibur.
He's asking us, yeah.
It's before Excalibur. That's
right.
True. Let's see.
That's all I got on that.
Oh, it's a few years after Deliverance. Oh, John Borman. It's right before The Exorcist 2, though. No, it's right. So it's right after Deliverance and right before Exorcist 2. and right before Excalibur. Like, that guy makes classics, and Point Blank, for God's sake. We lost the thread. We've lost the thread again.
That's okay. Well, okay, getting back to punks, and before we, finish up our discussion of punks and this new trade that recently came out, I got to ask, is it one of you or both of you who are Akira fans?
So Kody...
That would be Josh.
Because Kody claims he's never read a manga before.
I have never read a manga, no.
Not even Akira?
Well, I did see the movie, the animation.
Of Akira?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not anti-manga or manga. I just never read one, never bought one.
Because I loved that in the 5th issue you do that, I guess that last story, the second one, as this manga where Lincoln tells the reader to, how to read it. You go from right to left and he explains everything. And so, that's funny enough as it is, but then you have they're kind of hidden there earlier, but they come out with a vengeance at the very end.
Yeah,
hero references.
Considering that Kody had no idea what I was talking about, he did a tremendous job. Like, it really worked. My favorite is I said in the script that it starts with dog walking on a wall, because every anime, every manga has the scene of like the main character walking on like a wall of a garden, and Cody's version is him walking on a wall of a house. And I thought to myself, like, well, that is a way to read that.
Oh God!
Wait, is that what that meant?
Yeah, walking on a wall.
That's fantastic.
That's funny. When I read that, I just thought, okay, that's another wacky image. And
now
it
works.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it totally works. But you're like, oh, son of a bitch, he's walking on a wall.
Wow.
Well, how often do you find like those walls don't exist, right? Like there's like Central Park doesn't even have one of those walls anymore the whole way around. Like. Those walls are so rare, and yet every kid seems to live in a town that has a giant wall around the park that they walk up and down on.
That's true, yeah.
No, I grew up... I probably read more manga as a kid than I did American comics. My brother was like 10 years older than me, so he was into it when I was a little kid. And he had a best friend. His best friend had gone to Japan and would send us boxes of Shonen Jump, and, New Type magazine, all that stuff. And so like I'm a huge fan. So almost all Rumiko Takahashi jokes. So like I went deep. There's like Ranma jokes and there's Maison Ikkoku jokes. And then I went Akira just in case people didn't know what I was talking about. I wanted to make sure that Akira was in there so it was clear. And Pokemon, like I love that Pokemon is an entire children's franchise about people who enslave animals and cause them to dogfight. I think it's amazing. It's like the most popular thing in the world, and it's horrifying. They're like, oh, I found this docile animal, and I force it to fight other docile animals until it knocks them unconscious. Tremendous.
So my job, after I get that script, is to take all these images I don't understand, and then I add my version of the joke to it. So if you flip through and you watch Abe get turned into the horse, and he runs into the tree later in the issue, Abe's head is actually where the horse's butt is. So he's been backwards inside the horse the entire time. And that's the kind of thing no one would ever notice, but I do it to make myself laugh. And those are the Kody jokes.
Wow. I missed that.
Yeah, we sort of backstop each other in a nice way where like, again, it's that thing of like we each are kind of providing a different aspect of the comedy without stepping on each other and always enhancing each other.
Well, I think that's for this type of book, that's probably the perfect way to work because, if both of you were in the know of what the other was thinking and what he intended, then it wouldn't be near as successful. So this is another example of ignorance is bliss.
I agree.
That's true.
I wish I didn't know all the stuff I know. It really ruins everything.
Man, so he's supposed to be walking on top of a wall. That makes so much more sense. I love that.
Yeah. So outside of Punks and some of the other current work that you guys have going on now, and then from what you can tell us, because I know, Kody, you said that you couldn't really tell us much about what you have going on right now with the new project. Is there anything new or on the horizon that you can share with us?
So I got, let's see, the second trade paperback of The Bunker is going to be in stores in like 2 weeks, I think. The second arc of The Life After is wrapping up right now, and it's awesome, so you should read it. Nobody reads like that. That is my book that is like even as hard to sell as Punks is. I think Life After is an even harder sell.
And it's got Hemingway, so what's not to like? It does
have, I know, right? Come on. So Life After is going to be, the second arc is going to be wrapping up very soon with a trade to follow. And then I have a secret creator-owned book that has not been announced yet at another publisher. And I have we're doing sorry, I have a lot of stuff. We're doing a hardcover 10th anniversary edition of my very first book, Elk's Run, over at Oni Press. It's going to be a deluxe, beautiful, slightly oversized hardcover. And I'm writing Pacific Rim comics for Legendary. Wow. Starting in August, I think, or September, somewhere in there.
Now, I think my work on the giant mech in this last issue of Punks has really landed you that gig. So you're welcome.
I think so.
I'm working on. I have a 12-issue script for a new crime book that's actually written. It's done, and I'm doing a polish on it right now to try and compress some of the pages a little bit. I'm up to 9 and 10 panels in some of the pages, so I'm doing a compression pass. Because once I start drawing a book, a lesson I learned a little bit before Sweets, once I start drawing a book, I don't have any writing time. And rather than try and piece together a story in the middle of art deadlines, I really just rather have the full script done in advance and then start drawing it. So that's kind of where I am with that. So I'll probably have another month or so on this rewrite, and then I'll start drawing that. I get asked to pitch freelance stuff for some bigger publishers, and I've never done any of it. And so I did get one recently that they want story and not necessarily art, which is a little more doable for me. So I may make a little time next week to work on some pitch stuff, but that's about it. I'm just writing and doing Punks, and I still do a fair amount of advertising and graphic design work too, just because I have so many loyal clients through the years that have treated me well, and that stuff pays great.
So that's your day job?
No, my day job is comics, but that's sort of my sideline work that always generates revenue when the books are either in production and not ready to hit the shelf yet, or it's a great filler for the void.
Well, guys, good luck on the work that you have coming up and about to come out, and definitely well wishes on the future of Punks. I'm hoping that there is life for Punks after these next two specials.
We hope so too. We feel good about it. And it's something. In case you can't tell from listening to us talk about it for an hour, Kody and I genuinely love the book, and I would suspect it'll be something that we do for the rest of our lives in one form or another. Until we're super lame. It's going to be so lame. We're each 5 years away from just being completely out of touch with the world. So, it's by the time we get there, it's just going to be even more. It'll be nonsensical beyond words. Yeah. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't become like the equivalent of, let's say, when All in the Family turned into Archie's Place, or Sanford and Son turned into the Sanford Arms.
Oh God, I forgot that Sanford and Son did that.
Yeah.
I had a cat once. She recently died. But this cat would sing the Sanford and Son theme song with me.
What?
So I would go, and she'd go, meow. I go, meow. It was amazing. It was the best thing. I've never been able to train an animal to do anything other than sing the Sanford and Son theme. That's it. That's the height. That is all I've ever been able to accomplish.
Okay.
I mean, you've peaked.
I have.
You've peaked. There's nowhere to go but down.
I can't even get my daughter to do it. Let alone.
I would have not seen that coming. From any distance, but it makes sense that it comes up from the creators of Punks, the comic. Well, thanks, guys, for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having us, guys. Thank you Thank you for all the reviews and all the support. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a big help for sure.
Yeah, thanks for Punks, and thanks for the picture of a dog laying on top of Snoopy's doghouse. That made me so happy.
You know, I did that as a cover variant. I did that as a cover variant for a retailer, and they shot it down. So I was so
they were like, "No, we don't want that. We don't want that at all."
Yeah, like we don't get it. It's like what?
Like, it's fucking. It's like the most iconic images of all time. Nope, no idea. Don't know what that is.
I think I shed a tear of joy when I saw it. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you appreciate it. You're that guy, that one guy that liked it. I did it just for you.
I'm happy to be that guy.
Gene's special place.
Okay, well that was a ton of fun. Those guys were just about as funny as I would expect them to be, and they really, really love their comic, which is great because I love it too.
Yeah, same here. And, you know, they mentioned this at the tail end of the interview that, listeners could probably tell how much they love what they're doing when it comes to punks. And so even though they don't have any solid plans yet for the next narrative arc, I feel pretty confident that as much fun as these guys have doing punks, it's going to be around in some form for a long time.
Yeah, because I mean, to be honest, is there much of a narrative arc in Volume 1? It's not. It's all just kind of like stuff.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
And it is like the Young Ones in that, or any other kind of crazy sitcom. It doesn't have to have a continuing story. It can be just one short bit, one weird scenario after another, without any kind of development. So that's one of the beauties. And yeah, I guess there is that danger of milking all of the jokes that they can humanly conceive of, but I don't think they're near that end yet.
Oh no, they had there's one whole story, the one called Begin. The whole story is about we don't know how to end the story, which we've never even told you yet.
Yeah,
they got a long ways to go.
Yeah. So that was great. We want to thank Josh and Kody again for being on the show. And if you want to find great comics like Punks, then head on over to the website of our sponsor, and that is Discount Comic Book Service. So go to their website, dcbservice.com, and they'll have so many incredible specials for you, you won't believe it. Or you can go to the sister web company, InStockTrades.com, and there you can find a copy of Punks, the comic, the first trade paperback, at 42% off cover price. So instead of paying $14.99, you get it for an incredibly ridiculous low price of $8.69. And for the amount of laughs you get in this first trade, that's a steal.
And for that price, just go ahead and buy two.
That's right. Buy one for your friends, or buy one for your enemy, because it'll make your enemy your friend after they read it. It's that good. And then after you do get your comics there and you are turned on by the joy of Punks the comic, then get in touch with us and let us know what you think of our recommendation. If you go to our website and in your browser you will see a tab on the right that says Send Voicemail. Click on that, and from the wonders of SpeakPipe, you can leave us a message from the comfort of your own computer or mobile device. It's just that simple. Or if you want to do things the hard way, pick up your phone and dial 415-3-COMICS. That's 415-326-6427. Or you can email us if you want to get in touch with both me and Gene. The email address is 2guys@comicsalternative.com. If you want to email me directly, I'm Derek at comicsalternative.com. And Gene, if they want to contact you directly, how do they do that?
Gene at comicsalternative.com works.
That's right. It's just that simple. You can also find us on Twitter. We're at the number 2 Guys with PhDs. Thank you, everyone who continues to retweet our tweets. You can also find us on Facebook, on Tumblr, and on Instagram. You can subscribe to the podcast through iTunes. You can stream it through Stitcher. You can also find us on TuneIn. And as always, you can find every single one of our podcast episodes, as well as our list of reviews and comics-related commentary on the blog, which is at our website, comicsalternative.com. A lot of ways of getting in touch with us, Gene.
All the social medias.
That's right. And even our forum, we have a forum that several of you contribute to on a regular basis, and we appreciate that. So keep contributing. But also, for those of you who have not taken part of the forum and you listen to the podcast, what the hell is wrong with you? Get on over to our website, click on the forum tab, and just join in the conversation. We like to hear from you. And in fact, it's been nice hearing from you, Gene. It's been since October that you and I were on the show had been on the show together.
Yeah, it's been life been crazy.
Yeah, you've gone through a lot of changes, and this is all good, but it's left you with little time. But I'm glad that you have the opportunity now to join in with this really fun interview.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, so glad to have you back, and hope to have you back soon.
Hope so, too.
Yeah. Until then, I'm Derek.
And I'm Gene.
We'll see you later.
Take care.
Quaker Oats. It's the right thing to do.